Happy Thursday, Facebook friends. Welcome back to Facebook. I'm Angie Garza, Director of Professional Learning and Educational Services at ROE 47, serving Lee, Ogle, and Whiteside counties. And if you are joining us back here on Thursday, you know it's time for another edition of Teacher Talk. And as we welcome the month of February and hopefully some warmer temperatures, we are continuing our wonderful conversations with educators across our 3-county area, talking about all the wonderful things that are happening in our school communities and our communities at large. And today is no different. In fact, today is a very special Teacher Talk because it's going to harken back to my formative years growing up in the stacks of Rock Falls High School Library. So Stacy, thank you for joining me with this conversation this morning. Stacy Ding is my friend, colleague, and co-host here on Teacher Talk. We're going to be talking with Kristine Schauff about all of the wonderful things that are happening at Rock Falls High School. So I hope you are as excited about this conversation as I am. I can't wait to hear about all the wonderful things that are happening.
I am excited, Angie. A couple weeks ago, we were at SOC for the Ed Tech Summit, and it was just a complete coincidence that I looked at the breakout sessions and thought, well, this interests me as being a past ELA teacher and a mother of 2 current students who I'm always paying attention to what they're doing on their Chromebooks and what they're reading. I happened to find myself in a breakout room that featured our guest today. And I enjoyed the conversation and the information she had to offer so much. I went back to the second session that she did, and I took a lot of notes, and immediately I said, we got to have her on a Teacher Talk. Shame on me for not being introduced to her earlier. And what a breath of fresh air for the idea of what happens in the library. I think that's what kind of got me pulled in so much, as I thought this is so much more than just the idea of like the books in the library. We have come so far. And so I'm excited to have this conversation today and share it with our viewers.
Stacy, I mentioned earlier, just a few moments ago, that I spent a lot of high quality time when I was younger in the Rock Falls High School Library. My mother worked there, and I loved helping to reshelve books, and I loved just being in the stacks. But you are so right. The face of our library media centers have changed drastically with the advance of technology. And so our library media specialists have been on the cutting edge of determining what the futures of our libraries look like and how we're promoting accessibility and that information literacy with our students. And so, I did not mention, however, that this Teacher Talk is special for another reason. Kristine and I actually were co-teachers, co-workers together at Newman Central Catholic High School many moons ago. And I remember very fondly the environment that she created in that library space. So glad to have you with us here this morning, Kristine, and having the opportunity to talk with you a little bit about some of these topics and what's going on at Rock Falls High School. So thank you so much for joining us, and we can't wait to learn more. So in that spirit, I'm going to kick us off in our conversations this morning. And I alluded to it just a little bit, but tell us, we always love to hear people's stories. So tell us a little bit about your story. How appropriate is that we're asking a library media specialist about her story? So what's your story? How did you end up at Rock Falls High School?
I came to Rock Falls High School because I had been looking for a different position, something that would challenge me more than our experience there at Newman. Wonderful school. I was just looking for a slightly larger environment. So the opening came up at Rock Falls when Jan McCanna, who had held the position for over 30 years, and had created an amazing space, but she was retiring. And so the position came open and I applied.
As we know in the education world that it's constantly changing all the time. That just seems to be what happens with the trends and the needs of the students. But I don't know if there is a role in our school system that has changed more than the librarian role. It's so much more than just going and finding a book, even from like the card catalog. I'm aging myself here. Can you talk to us a little bit about the changes that you have seen in the role of school librarian to now we have like a librarian media specialist, and how has what's happened in the world, how has the role of the media specialist kept up with those needs of schools and our students?
Well, libraries have always functioned at the hub of a school. That's where meetings happen. That's where students come and collaborate, and friendships are formed, and staff come and they talk and share their challenges in the classroom. And that hasn't changed. And I've been in libraries of different kinds this is my 37th year. So I've been in libraries a long time, and that's just the years that I've been paid for it. So yeah, the basic function is still there to serve our students and our faculty and help the challenges of teaching, because teaching has always been about mandates and needing to get across the curriculum, and that changes based on what the school perceives as well as the state requirements. And they don't always have the funds and the wherewithal. And it's always good to pick another brain, and there may be some way, because I was trained as a teacher and we come at it from just a different angle. And so you hear the frustration from the kids, and you can share that with the appropriate teacher that may be able to guide another class discussion. And then the reverse is also true. We can help support and provide additional materials. It's just the form that those materials take that has been the big change. It used to be you'd have an armful of books that you would carry into a classroom or put on a cart and wheel in. And even though we still do push paper, it's oftentimes more recreational in nature, or classroom novels. And there are still some textbooks alive and kicking. But for the most part, the bulk of our nonfiction is digital. And so that's what I collect, and I share links and passwords and ways to get into it. And what's nice is our kids are so incredibly booked and busy. They've got so many clubs, sports. They're often not available until 11 o'clock at night. Well, I've shut down, but my library is available now 24/7. And I tell them, I said, your brain isn't honestly working at its finest at 2 a.m., but that may be when you're actually looking for information. So when you're ready and it's time for you to start working, whatever time that is, no judgment, the resources are available for you. And if they're here at school, it's without any kind of password required. If they're at home, there's a simple password and they have access to it.
So that retrospect, or even reflecting on Stacy's earlier comments about, I'm taken back to my high school education and thumbing through a card catalog and making sure that I'm out when the library closes, that digital piece, that immediate access, that immediate timely support sounds like such an important part of your role as you work to serve the students, and I'm sure the educators within the building. But I'm interested to know, when we think about technology and that digital landscape, students are inundated, and we know also that our students have experienced a lot of trauma over the last several years and historically. So I heard a rumor that you have created a digital calming room at Rock Falls High School. So can you tell us a little bit more about that? I'm intrigued, and I want to know more about this kind of innovative way of thinking and service that you're offering to your students.
Okay, that it actually was an outgrowth of COVID. And that's how the whole concept got started. One of the big things that I I started when I began here taking over after Jan was of an online catalog that is now online all the time. And I had to create a website in order to host those links, and the library, the school website has those links as well. And then they just decided to finally just link to my website. And so during COVID times, the library was shut down to the bulk of the student population. There were 4 and 5 rounds of testing on paper for the COVID virus, and they were just afraid. So we were isolating every book that anybody touched for 72 hours, and we would put them in plastic bags, wipe them all down, and hand them in a sterile, close as possible. But what it meant is nobody could get in and actually browse, and that was difficult. But what the library was used for was special education, because those students were here 4 days a week, whereas the rest of our Rockville students were on an AB schedule. And so they were at least in the building one day, out another. And the special ed and the aides that assist them, those students were here in the library, and they were assigned specific tables so that they didn't have cross-contamination, and we had all the shields up. That's how things ran 4 days in a row. So the teacher would start the lesson on the Chromebook, and then there would be reteaching and reframing done by the aides, because we have amazing aides at Rock Falls High School. But it was interesting because the aides knew as soon as the student started getting bouncy, they were staring off and looking around. They had the knowledge of their signs, their tails, that they were starting to lose their calmness, that their ability to focus and be productive in a classroom environment. And so then they were taking them to the back of the library and having them do their counting and breathing and trying to refocus them. And when that happened, it just took them out of the realm. They'd have to leave. Everybody in the room knew it. But happily, in this environment for that time, everybody they popcorned up and down. Everybody had those moments when they just couldn't take it anymore. And the overwhelming sadness of deaths. Our students had to survive a death of a loved one. A lot of them did. COVID took out those medically fragile members of family, and their parents lost jobs, and they were super, super stressed. And so the anxiety levels were just off the wall. And I was looking for a way to try to help them. And so I started collecting some links and just sending them to the aides and say, hey, try this. Maybe watching an ocean with fish swimming, maybe staring into a fireplace with the fire crackling, or a drone going over the earth. This could maybe help. Some of them, they had to shut their eyes for such visual stimulation. So then we went with auditory, with colors of noise. I had no idea such a thing even existed, that there was brown noise and white noise, but apparently there's a rainbow of noises. So I started collecting these, and it was looking for a way to curate it. So that's how I ended up with a page on my website called the Virtual Calming Room. And now that we're all back in session, I took all those links, organized it into like a Bitmoji library, which had been originally sort of an elementary concept for teachers. But I got a lot of positive feedback from my high schoolers that said, this is so much easier to know where to look. I'm not necessarily wanting to read 15 things, but if I can look at the graphic, that makes it easier. And now my students that have these anxiety issues, they can sit in a traditional classroom with their aide when those signs start, and they get those impulses that they're losing control. They can take their headphones out, pop them on. If they need auditory, they're on their computer just like everyone else, but they could bring up the visuals, they could bring up the auditory, and So they can, without ever having to leave the classroom, and draw attention to the fact, they can practice their breathing because there's reminders for that. There's some mindfulness techniques. So those are some of the video links that are in my calming room. And then I also have a link to what's called the Cameron's Collection, which is put out by Gail Sengage. And it's two separate collections. One is an elementary level, which of course here at the high school we're not interested in, but at the high school level, then they tackle all these really super hard subjects that I wouldn't even, as a librarian, they don't always come and say, oh, hey, by the way, I lost a parent, or hey, my grandparent died, which may have been a super important person in their life. And that's why they're feeling really down. They're really depressed. They can't, they just want to put their head down. How can we try to redirect them and give them support when they need it? Again, this is in the moment when they need it. Their counselors have access to this same collection of materials because I put a link on there. And I can share with you what my calming room looks like. So here's all my different things. We've got Black History Month highlighted over here, but here is our calming room. And you just click on the sign to enter that domain. So as it starts to populate, you'll see I have sounds and music. There's colored noises, visual ways to relax, coloring pages, 100 coping skills, some self-care for teens. Here is a list of books from our online catalog on different mental health topics. And then here is a list of the ebooks. Here's Cameron's collection. And I currently have 109 titles. And so there's opioid, surviving a breakup, LGBTQ, mindfulness and meditation. And here's some of those panic disorders. And if you just click on the title, and this is completely anonymous. Nobody knows you're visiting the library. Nobody knows you're going down that mental health aisle, pulling out those books with a person all upset. Here's the table of contents. And so defining anxiety, they may have just gotten this diagnosis from a psychiatrist. This goes right into their Google Drive. It can also go to the Microsoft OneDrive. It reads it to them, translates it into other languages if English is not their primary target language, and it scales it so that the counselors can pick books that match the reading levels. And oftentimes we understand hearing wise more than we read. But if they're reading it, any word that they don't understand, they can highlight, and there is a definition that pops up. This can be assigned by a counselor. It goes right into their Google Drive. They're made aware of it in an email, and they can't lose it. No matter how disorganized or unprepared for the wave of emotion that they're feeling, this resource is available. I keep tweaking it. I added a personal crisis plan because when they're ready to work on it, the counselor can just pull this up and assign it. Say, hey, it's just a PDF that I've gotten. And I've replaced it a couple times as they find ones that are better. So it's a great way for library staff to work with a often under collaborated group of educators, namely our counselors. And what was really amazing is I talked to the special ed teachers, and they got so excited over this. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to start with mindfulness. We're going to start doing these things and make this a part. I had no idea this is going to prove to be as useful as it has been. So I'm really grateful that the technology was available, and It sounds trite and very teen-like, but I just watched a ton of YouTube videos on how to make a Bitmoji library and where we went.
Well, great information. This was one of those things, your calming library, that when I heard you speak at the Ed Tech Summit, I was just in awe. I thought, what a cool resource to have at the fingertips of students, support staff, teachers. So kudos to you for creating that. That's amazing. One of the other things that I learned about when I heard you present was this organization called OWLS. I'll be honest, it was something that I was not familiar with, but quickly learned what another great resource and networking ability. You know, if there's one thing that we know how to do as educators and people in the school system is we know how to network. And I will let you kind of explain that, but tell us a little bit about the OWLS program. And if you're a librarian, a school media specialist, and you want to get more information about this, make sure that you add in there how you find out about it.
Oh, absolutely. ILE is the Association of Illinois School Library Educators, and we have chapters. And that had been something that I had been working with the leaders of ILE, and even before it was ILE, it was ISLMA, and saying, that we are so disparate. And especially in our neck of the woods, the library media specialist may be the only one in their department. English teachers have a cadre of people, the science, the math, but we're usually alone in the library media specialist area. And what's even more is that not only are we alone, a lot of the professional development doesn't necessarily apply to us because we educate in a different way. So I helped form OWLS. I was the rep for ILE to get this started, and we had 6. And you can see that it's grown. And there's another one that is being planned, and that's for district media specialists who find themselves stretched between a bunch of different buildings. And Rock Falls is a single building district, so I don't face that challenge. But several of our other members, the Google website that we created for our OWLS chapter. And our events are listed here, a little bit about us. Like I told you at the beginning, I've been in libraries, university, corporate, and school and public libraries for those 37 years. And I have the pleasure of working with Laura Crisp, who is the Prophetstown Linden Tampico district librarian, and she's been at PLT for 9 years. She has 25 years in education, and she's our secretary for OWLS. Heather Johnson is the media specialist at Sterling Schools, and she's been the district librarian there for 6 years, and she's been a teacher, an English teacher, for 18 years at Sterling Schools, and she is our chapter rep and represents us all at the ILE board meetings. And Jill Smith is our PD coordinator, and she works at Byron School District, and she's been their district librarian for 7 years and worked at Byron Public Library for 6, and in the school district as a whole for 11. So all of the leadership at OWLS comes with a variety of different perspectives, but we've all been in the business, so to speak, for a considerable length of time. So we are so excited to try to reach as many media specialists as possible and encourage them to join. We are going to offer 2 PD events every year, and we have social events. We're going to be planning one in May for Friday after school. We just picked the right Friday, where we can all get together and just emotionally support each other. So whatever your circumstance, whatever it's like in your library, in your school, chances are one of us are going to be able to relate and share ideas, and we just bounce potential things off of each other, potential ideas, suggestions. If you have a problem, we'll try to help group share that. And the hive mind is a wonderful thing. And there's nothing like teaching to do that.
So, Kristine, what a perfect segue into our last question for this morning. Speaking of futures, I understand that retirement might be in your future. So first and foremost, congratulations.
Thank you.
But, as you reflect, you've done not only so many things for Rock Falls High School, but also for our community in terms of bringing librarians together and having these great opportunities to be supportive and to be information and resource brokers. So what are you most looking forward to as you contemplate that new adventure? And what will you miss the most?
I will miss the camaraderie of my fellow educators and finding out what's going on in their buildings. And I am going to miss seeing my groups of students. I've got study hall in here now, and I've got groups of them playing Uno, and they're playing chess, and a puzzle table over here. And my aides are going back and forth and setting up events because there's going to be a blind leadership meeting here in the library tonight after school. The Alumni Association is meeting also up here in the library on Thursday night. So being part of that incredible energy, that is going to be a very different thing for me, because I have been working and being in libraries since an elementary librarian pulled me out and said, "Hey, you look pretty bored there, Missy," and pulled me into the library in 6th grade. And I honestly haven't been out of a library since. So I just see myself volunteering in a variety of different libraries because it's been part of me. It's like my DNA. So I know I'm going to be involved in libraries around. I just won't be drawing a paycheck.
You're drawing love and appreciation instead of a paycheck.
I'm part of, besides OWLS, we have a local consortium that our online catalog is part of. So when our students and our teachers search things, they are part of Rock Falls Public, Sterling Schools, Newman, St. Mary's in Sterling, Dixon Public, Dixon High School, Milledgeville. And we're looking for more people to join our online catalog, Rock River Library Consortium. So if your library is a standalone or pays exorbitant fees, we have a state-of-the-art software system that we could really help you out with. And we write grants and get money for that. So think about it. If you have any questions, all you have to do is shoot me an email, and I would be so happy to talk with you about getting you into our local library consortium. I see me doing a lot of background work for that. I used to catalog at the University of Illinois in Urbana, and it's technical and kind of fussy, but I enjoy it. And so maybe that's where I can help with other schools and things that have needs to get better records. And in the old days, our card catalog days, you maxed at 3 subject headings. I can have 15, I can have 20, I can micro analyze. So it's great because then the more subject headings, the better that book will be found. So.
Well, I certainly feel that you will not be slowing down anytime soon after retiring. So friends, look out for Kristine Schauff on the move, even after retirement. I know that all of the students and staff at Rock Falls High School will We'll miss you and so appreciate everything that you have done to build the Library Media Center at the building to meet all of those needs. So thank you so much for all that you do and for all of your time this morning in sharing with us. I know Stacy will be putting your contact information in our posting. So if anyone listening would like to reach out for more information, they will have that knowledge to do so. Friends, that wraps us up here today on Facebook for this edition of Teacher Talk. But as we close out here today and reflect on our time here with Kristine Schauff, Library Media Specialist at Rock Falls High School, just want to be thankful for the great reminders that libraries are more than just a place. Libraries are access to valuable resources, a space for collaboration, an environment for learning and critical thinking, and a place where there's a safe culture to recenter and reflect on our own emotional well-being through really timely and appropriate resources. So thank you so much for that wonderful reminder. In that spirit, we hope that each one of you has a restful and relaxing rest of your Thursday, and even better Friday, a joyful and hopefully sunshine-filled February weekend, and we will see you right back here next Thursday for another edition of Teacher Talk.